My name is Cathy Moore and I've worked in the refuge in Rathmines for the past 28 years. I was actually involved with the committee who built that refuge, and that's the first purpose-built refuge in Europe. However, even though we're here 28 years, I think for lots of people in Rathmines, they've no idea what that building is or what happens there. I could spend hours talking to you about the horror stories that we see, the people's lives that are shattered, the women who have been killed. I think we see films, we look at it on television, we hear statistics all over the place, but people don't take those that serious. And okay, while women stay with us in the refuge, they are safe. It is a very safe building, and we also have great backup from Rathmines Gardaí, who really keep special eye on us. We can do all of that. We can help women go to court, seek protection orders, seek barring orders, seek safety orders. Members of the public who know nothing about the issue of domestic violence often say to me, but some of these women take their husbands back. They must like what he's doing to them. Well, I think there's nobody on earth who would like to be punched, kicked, stabbed, scalded. Or recently we had a woman who had been shot in the leg. You may remember that last October, Bank Holiday weekend, a young woman was kicked to death in Finglas. Unfortunately, that woman had only left us 10 days prior to that. She had told us that she was going to be killed, and she told us who was going to do it. But women often say, I'm terrified he's going to kill me. But in her case, it wasn't a man who killed her. It was a relative, who unfortunately too had been known to us. The previous speaker spoke about how some people have bad upbringings. You know, they're reared in poverty, they're neglected, they're abused as children. And all of that is true. Putting children into care is not always the answer, but trying to give parents the tools to parent positively is what's needed in this country. Not enough resources are put into prevention. People think, oh, court orders are the answer. You know, in this particular field, court orders are not as simple as what people think. If my husband assaults me tonight, provided I was badly marked on the face, because that's the only way you're going to get an emergency barring order, if a judge can see the cuts, the bruises. That order only lasts 8 days, and it's returnable then, where your husband can go in and defend himself. Even if the judge gives you a barring order, the Gardaí can only arrest him if they find him on the premises. He can stand outside your gate all day long. He can threaten you. He can send messages through your family. You can't prove that. So while we've divorced in this country only in recent years, none of these orders really protect women. Up until a few years ago, a lot of women who we knew, and they knew their lives were in danger, would go to a refuge in England, Scotland or Wales, or sometimes in other parts of Europe. That has all changed because they have no entitlements. There was a time that their social welfare payment would transfer with them, or they would get a payment in their own right. That is no longer the case. Even if an Irish woman is out of the country 2 years now, under habitual residency, she's entitled to nothing here. She's not seen as an Irish citizen anymore. So the whole area of family law, domestic violence, and the choices women have is very complicated and is not understood by most people. People's upbringing and their culture and their religious beliefs also is something that holds women in the situation. We would deal with a lot of traveller women who really believe that until death do us part. So they don't see leaving their husband as an option. But even if they do, and if they get court orders, which many of them do, they live in an estate with their husband's family. That's what happens culturally if a traveller girl gets married. So he can move in next door with his mother, so he can torment her. So the law does not work to protect those women. Over the last few years, we've been keeping a statistic which we didn't previously keep. Foreign national women, non-Irish national women, and a lot of them who come from cultures where they had no control over their lives. Their husband was boss. If you were to measure success, and success for me is if a woman achieves what she sets out to achieve. We find with women who come from religions where they have no say, once they realise that they have rights in law, they never return to their violent partner. They would be the single largest group who never return. But even if somebody does get a barring order and her husband is afraid of the police and doesn't go near them, believe it or not, after separation is the most dangerous time for these women. They might be at home, they might be getting brutalised, they might be emotionally abused, financially abused, but when they actually leave and make the decision to leave, that's when they are in most danger. Families and relatives don't understand this, and they say, but what are you worrying about now? You're away from him. There was a famous case in 2010 in England, and this woman, she left her husband. He was extremely violent to her. Some years later, she got into a new relationship, and she had a baby. Her new partner came home one evening to find her and the baby with 48 stab wounds. The two of them had been stabbed to death. So there are men who will pursue you no matter where you go. I suppose one of the most horrifying things in years, I've seen the injuries with women, but only 2.5 weeks ago, I was driving up Rathmines in the afternoon with a colleague, and we witnessed this woman being attacked at the bus stop. There was a man standing there. This woman, partner, her husband, he dragged her out into the road. He tore her clothes off. She was standing there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The man standing at the bus stop was looking around, whistling to himself as if, I can't see anything that's going on. Before we could get to stop or intervene, she ran into the pizza shop. They put her out. Schoolgirls, local schoolgirls, walking down the road. One of them took off the jumper and pushed her over her. We had called the guards, and the guards brought her down to us. But that's how uncaring we are. A few years ago on Rathmines Road, one of our women was set alight. Petrol was thrown over her by her husband and set alight at the bus stop again. Nobody even rang the guards on that occasion. Because a lot of the husbands, we're directly facing the Catholic Church in Lower Rathmines Road. A lot of the husbands watch from the porch of the church, hoping the wife or partner will come out to go to the shop where they can once again attack them. But it's seldom that the public intervene. And that's something that I think is, extremely sad. In this day and age, well, at any time. I know people are afraid, and I know we're living in a very violent culture, and people are afraid they may be stabbed, that they may be attacked, and that is true. But if it was an animal being attacked, I feel I would have to do something to protect it. So, if we're talking about justice, I would just feel, really, when it comes to family law, and it comes to the most vulnerable women and children, that they get no justice. In 28 years, I've seen women, left on life support machines in hospital after beatings. I've seen women almost stabbed to death. 6 men in 28 years. And we have dealt with thousands of families, have served 1 day in jail. Men don't get jail. I went to a woman. Every other day, the order, RD charge. 30 times he was at the peace. For abused women and children in this country. Thank you.
Did you want to speak? Did Elaine want to speak as well? No. So Elaine just like to share.
I suppose when it comes to the refuge, I had to use one of them. It's best for her to speak about experience with children and what it is that. But I do think it's very important to realise the fact that domestic violence goes across all cultures and it affects men and women. And just to be mindful of that, because when we think of domestic violence, we immediately assume it's the perpetrator against the victim being a woman. It's not always the case, and I think people just need to be mindful of that, and just to be aware of the signs of domestic violence, and to respond accordingly, and not to assume that because a man is a man that he can defend himself against these things either. Violence is violence. It knows no bounds, and it can affect everybody. So just wanted to finish on that.
Sure, thank you.